Australia, around 48,000 newborn babies require the help of a neonatal intensive care unit or a special care nursery. 25,000 of these babies are born premature, and up to 1,000 of them lose their fight for life. To help provide better, healthier outcomes for newborns and their families challenged by prematurity and sickness, Melinda Cruz, together with some other mums of preemie babies, created the not-for-profit organisation Miracle Babies in 2005. What started as a local venture with the Liverpool Hospital has gone on to become a very successful and national foundation. And today, to tell us all about it, we welcome Melinda Cruz. Melinda, take us back and tell us a bit about your own story and how you came to be so passionate about helping other families with preemie and ill babies.
So I found out when I was about 18 or 19 that I was going to have complications, and I remember being told that one of three things would happen. Either I would find it hard to fall pregnant, I wouldn't be able to hang on to the babies, or that I would have them early. So I wasn't in for, I guess, a real surprise, but I fell pregnant when I was 24, and it happened really quick and really easy. And then when I was about 29 weeks with him, I started getting what I thought was Braxton Hicks, and everybody was telling me that that's what it was. So I went into the hospital. I was 29 weeks at the time. They put me on the trace, and they were contractions. They weren't Braxton Hicks. But my cervix was still shut, which is a really good sign, and the baby was still healthy, so that was okay. So they kept me monitored for about 3 weeks. And then when I got to 32 weeks, my waters broke, and it wasn't a complete break, it was more of a bit of a leak. And still in hospital, they were monitoring me every 3 hours to make sure the baby had enough fluid around him. Still, mind you, having contractions this whole time, but not progressing. And then I remember the doctor saying, we can't leave you too long with your waters broken, too high risk of infection. So coming on to 2 weeks after that, they basically said, if you don't have the baby by the end of the week, we'll induce you. And a couple of days later, the labour just got more intense, and I ended up having him at 34 weeks. And it was just a whole new world. Had no idea what to expect. After 3 days, they asked me to be discharged and go home, and I had no idea that would happen, that you would get sent home without your baby and leave them behind. But he did really well. He was there for 3 weeks, able to bring him home, and just absolutely beautiful. And then when he was about 1, we decided to try again for another baby. Again, fell pregnant really easy. Bled at 6 weeks again, still hung on to the baby, and I just thought, I'll get to 29 weeks, I'll go back on bed rest, everything will be okay. And it just didn't happen that way. When I got to 26 weeks, I felt just a lot of burning, like a real intense, period pain. It was different from the first pregnancy, and I was there for nearly 4 days in that intense, excruciating pain. And I remember a nurse saying, I think I need to check and see what's happening, and I was fully dilated and the baby was ready to come. So we had, just had hit 27 weeks by that stage 4 days later. 13 weeks early is a really long time for a baby, and it was definitely a big process and a lot different from when we had Elijah. Because he was born so early, and this is kind of what sparked all of Miracle Babies, was babies that were born under a certain weight and week, so under 29 weeks, under 1,500 grams. Once they were discharged, they were then invited to a program at the hospital for the first 12 months. So you went back once a month, and then you had access to the allied health team, a neonatologist, family support nurse, lactation consultant, so a whole different range of team that could help you with development and help you with any questions, and access to other parents, which was a really big thing for me. So that was really a big saving grace for me, because it gave me somewhere to go all the time, somewhere to ask questions, and people to reach out to that understood what we'd been going through. When he got to 12 months though, we were then discharged from that, and that really kicked me into a bit of a journey going, well, what happens next? So I ended up finding a small support group at another hospital, and that was just like a mother's group where mothers got together. And I contacted them, but I couldn't access them because my babies weren't born there. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go and approach the hospital where the boys were born. So when I approached the hospital, the idea was a support group for families, and a way to raise funds. So I approached them with the idea, and they took it to an exec meeting, and obviously the head doctor came back with a yes. And he said to me, well, how can we help you? How can we support you through this? And I said to him, do you think there'd be other mothers that would be interested?
Tell me about what sort of services Miracle Babies offered all those years ago and what they offer now today.
We run a 24-hour family line, and that was so parents obviously could have access to other parents at any time of the day. The really important thing to us was that peer-to-peer, face-to-face support. It did take a long time, so we call that nurture time, and that's where past parents will come back and talk to current parents. So using that example before where you can actually speak to someone who's kind of on the other side. It was a really big process because even though we had the green lights from the hospital, I remember speaking to the GM, and basically she was saying, you know, we have never had volunteers like this before in our system. So, you know, this was looking at parents or patients that had been intensive care patients now coming back and having contact with current intensive care patients. So it took about 18 months for us to get the process right. Criminal record checks, you know, that social work interviews and all of that. So, and that's really evolved and developed. And the other thing for us was that play group that we had up to 12 months, we wanted to extend that. So we were able, with the help of the hospital, take it off-site and basically open it up for any baby that had spent time in the NICU, so it didn't matter what weight or what week. And instead of it being stopping at 12 months, we went to 6 years until the children are ready for school. So that basically kind of became our nurture program as we built it. So we still run the 24-hour family line. The in-hospital support still runs exactly the same way. We were able to develop with New South Wales TAFE a TAFE course for our volunteers to go through. And like I said, it is a really big process, but really proud of it because we really need to protect the families that have gone through the trauma that want to support and the current ones. And we're able to do that. And then our nurture groups, we run them all around the country. And again, yeah, they're from 0 to 6 and ready for school. And we still stay with families beyond that and then help them with a whole lot of resources and things for the hospital as well. So.
How do you go about raising funds? Do you get any government funding?
No. So I've had a couple of projects where when we first built our website, I was able to build the case because there was no Australian website, nothing with Australian terminology, nothing that linked the hospitals together. So I was able to get a one-off funding for our website and then a few years later get some more funding to upgrade it. But that's it. That's all we've ever had from government funding, which is really crazy. It doesn't... you know, we've sat and looked at what it costs for us to do, and we can do it really efficiently. You know, it costs about $67 per baby to do what we do. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but there's 48,000 babies are born every year. So it's roughly about 3 million a year that we would need. Which when you look at what other charities raise, it's not actually too extreme, do you know what I mean? And we can do that. So
what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to face with the Miracle Babies?
I think always, maybe because it's non-for-profit, challenge is funding. Always is like, where is the next one going to come from? And always looking for ideas to engage people, I guess, in our work and wanting to support us. Whether it be one-off or year after year, because it's always ongoing. Babies are always being born, the need's getting greater.
What have been some of your proudest moments?
There's been some really big moments, but then other moments are when, you know, somebody that you've never met, and I actually had this today from a post that I'd put up, just say that Miracle Babies changed them, that it changed the experience. For me, that's probably the most humbling because, you know, the fact that you can impact people that you've never even met just because you went through it too and, you know, and suffered all that hurt and that trauma, I think that's really amazing for me. And then, you know, there's been a lot of different moments. In 2011, I was nominated for Ernst & Young, the Entrepreneur of the Year. And I remember when they first came and spoke to me, I had to actually Google the word, like I had no idea why, because in my head an entrepreneur was somebody that started a big company and made all this money, and it certainly didn't feel like that's what we were doing. So I had to Google, you know, what the word meant, and I remember reading the line that yes, there's that side of it, but the other side is, you know, of creating something but taking the risk on if it fails, and that's that, you know, with me, because I knew even though there was all the other mums and people around us, I always would wear it. If it failed, it would be my responsibility. So, you know, going through that journey and then winning it at the end was absolutely, Yeah, amazing experience. I wouldn't change it because it was probably the first time as a foundation we felt really grown up. You know, we wanted to take ourselves serious, but it was like the community then took us a lot more serious. They raised funds for us on the night, and you know, we raised 130,000 from that room that, you know, EY donated to us, which was just a massive kickstart for, you know, another big injection on what we could do with that. And then it just kind of had a ripple effect because all these people knew about us and then wanted to fundraise for us. So I think those kind of big acknowledgements were not a proudest moment, but just really defining moments for us that we were making an impact. And then, like I said, you know, a little miracle will draw a picture and, you know, send it to you, and you think, you know, the fact that they're doing well and their family's doing well. And, you know, one thing that always sticks in my head is a doctor saying to me, we can look after the babies medically and physically, but if we don't look after the emotional health of the family that we send them home to, we're not doing our complete job. And that's where we come in. So the fact that we can collaborate and just make healthier families, I think, yeah, that's my biggest thing.
My most important question, how have your 3 children turned out today and how are they going now?
Yep, so they're 14, 12 and 10, all boys. Absolutely amazing, yeah. With Dylan, who was our middle one, that was the earliest, we did have a little bit of trouble with his lungs, and I remember the paediatrician saying to me, when he gets to about 8, he'll get a lot better, his lung capacity will be better, and true to that, like it was just absolutely amazing, something kind of turned, but all doing well at school and just basketball champions I have, so they're absolutely amazing, yeah.